shoes.
Yes, you said that.
When was the last? I'm gonna keep repeating that. We gotta really all feel that 30 years. Listen, when was the last time you guys rewatched Ready or Not, or even just an episode?
Well, Elise reminded me, actually, we had a visit a couple of years back, and she showed Ready or Not to my kids who had never seen it. And they were looking at it, and they were kind of like, what? It just wasn't really computing, and so to watch it in their company was quite funny, because it was like, oh, that's you? Like, yeah, that's me. But that's also like a different story. And they're like, oh, and it was just it was quite a lot for them to take in. I don't think that was the last time I saw it, but it's probably the most memorable time I sat to watch it.
That's great.
Yeah,
I
but
love
that was a couple of years back, I have to say.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
I think my son was 7 and my daughter was 5. So
I watched it, I think on a date, possibly.
on a date?
Yeah, I think it was a week-long date though, so I think we watched.
You might
I
know
think she was a
because this-
fan and we watched.
Like, whose idea was that?
Probably mine.
Was it yours?
Yeah. Impressive.
That's great. I don't have that. Like, that would be great, I think, for a
It
date.
worked, but I mean, it didn't work out. But I mean,
Maybe you should engage with your series.
So let me ask, did you guys watch it like while it was airing though? Like when it was going like week to week, brand new episodes, were you guys tuning in? Or was that like hearing yourself speak is weird, right? Like, how was that?
to be honest, since it was about 30 years ago, Russ.
You know what, if we're gonna get technical, I think it's like 32.
I don't even really remember yesterday very well. No.
Did you watch it?
Did I watch it when it was
Like yeah, right, its first run, week to week, like I did.
No.
No, I agree. And part of it is not that there was no shame attached to it, but it is a little bit strange to watch yourself. I think many of us can probably relate. We see photos and we're like, oh, that's kind of awkward. Well, imagine taking the most awkward moments of your real life and then watching it again, and then realizing that it is also being witnessed by countless other people who are also watching you get your period. Like, it's awkward. Like, there are some very awkward things. So when you're in the moment as a young person, it's yeah, I don't think there's a better word. It's awkward. And now as an adult, you can watch it and go, oh my gosh, that's precious. And at the time you're like, hi. So that's probably more to do with why we may not have watched it, because you feel it, it's a visceral experience. It's like, yeah, it's real.
So it's airing and you're not watching it, but it's becoming this hit, this thing that's spreading. When did you realize it was a hit? Like was there a moment when you first got recognized? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I remember. Well, there's been a few, but I went to the movies in my mom's area at the mall, and it was just like screaming people kind of following us, and we had to kind of divert. So there's been a few of those. Or I went to my cousin's Camp Wahanoan, just to see the family, and the whole mess hall was just like screaming and going crazy, and I was young, so it's a little bit overwhelming, but it's also really exciting that everybody's so excited to see me, and it's just all about the love, so it's pretty cool.
My experience is a little bit different, and it was, I remember to kind of address the point that you said, how did you know it was resonating,
right,
or starting to become something? And obviously at the time, email was non-existent, so we weren't getting emails from people. But I know Elise and the producers would get fan mail or people writing in, and sometimes it would be families, sometimes it would be young people. But there were a few letters that were really poignant, and I remember we were shooting at the Ramon house, and just so you know, we would shoot in real houses. So yes. It wasn't a stage, it was like we rented a whole house, and so we would actually be in the house. And so they had set up lunch in the basement. And I remember this really
I
clearly.
remember this
There
too.
was, it was me and Lonnie, and it was the Ramones, all the Ramone family. And we were all sitting together. And I can't remember if it was you, Elise, or if it might have been you, came down with a letter. And it was from a girl and her mom who had watched the show, and it was about a life experience that was very intimate and very challenging for her. But the mother shared that it was like the first time that they could talk about it. Kind of makes me emotional. But what's really cool is that it actually resonated, and that people felt compelled to send a letter, and we didn't know at the time that it was like that impactful. But like to have the bravery to stand up and write the letter and say thank you. And then all of a sudden I remember thinking like, wait a second, so like the stuff we're doing day to day, we're having lots of fun. It's a great job to have, and it means it fills my bucket, but it's actually filling other buckets at the same time. Like that was super impactful.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Sorry, that was like way too much
No.
emotional.
Thank you.
I did not
That's why we're
anticipate
here.
that by sharing that story.
That's why we're here. This is wonderful.
All right.
It is
Real
beautiful.
life.
No, that's
101.
beautiful. That's beautiful. So my experiences.
I know. I want to be like,
Come on, Laura. No. Come on.
I crush easily, guys.
So I would say a lot of it would be people coming up to me and being like, oh, I really resonated with your character because I knew she was gay, and it really allowed me to be authentically who I am.
Right.
And who I knew I was, and I didn't have an outlet, and I saw that character, and I could resonate, and I was like, oh, it's okay to be myself.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get emotional too right now a little bit, just to have that kind of impact, just being who I am, and then allowing other people to be who they are, right? So
Thank
it's
goodness.
it's pretty powerful, it's pretty special stuff.
It's
you know?
amazing. It's amazing to watch back too because it holds up so well. It doesn't suffer like, some shows do where over time we learn things are a little, different. Maybe we shouldn't have done it that way, whatever. Like to re-watch it now is so like still holds true to what is happening today.
Yeah.
And so I think everything you guys are saying, it's like I just fully re-watched it in preparation for today, and what was
The whole
really
65 episodes?
Listen,
In a row?
all 65, all 5 seasons. I watched the Spanish version. I didn't understand it. No, but it was really cool because it really held up, and it was just so interesting. Like I was like, wow, we're still dealing with so much of this right now. Whether it went away and came back, whatever it is, it's still here. So I think that's so great.
It's amazing, and just even we were just talking in the green room actually with Elise just about how nowadays like a show like that may not even be able to be on the air because
Absolutely.
of cancel culture, because of things you can't say, it offends somebody. That there was such an authenticity and the truth had to be told at the time, and I'm just so incredibly grateful that I was able to be involved in that at that time. To have an impact on the world as it did,
It's wonderful. And are you guys still getting recognized as these characters? I mean, what is it like after all this time for people to come up to you and still see you as those characters? Because you guys are ingrained in my mind as like, the people that you were on screen in those shows. Well, I've spent some time with you now, but I still see you as like young, busy,
You
and
were my
Amanda, like
gray hair.
high school. How's that like? People walking up today?
It's, for me, it's an exchange of joy and love, right? So it just brings out immense joy and happiness out of people to be in my presence and to see me and then to remember the impact of the show. So it's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it. I love to give back to somebody because that's why I'm on the planet, to spread joy and love. So through whatever I choose to do in my life. So it's amazing.
I'm not going to be quite as eloquent. I don't get recognized that much, and I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. But also, I live on the West Coast, and interestingly enough, the show didn't have the same impact on audiences, or wasn't carried quite the same way as it is in Ontario and in Quebec and in Eastern Canada. And I think that's probably why, in fact, if I ever do get recognized, and it's not very frequently, it's people from Ontario. Did you go to this school? I'm like, I went to after school with you. We hung out after school.
That's great, guys. So one thing that I think is really cool today is a bit of a surprise. It's not just you guys here in the audience. We actually have Elise Rosenberg, who is the creator of the show. I've got questions for Elise. Actually, so I got to spend a lot of time with these guys earlier this week. We did a really cool photo shoot. I got to spend the better part of the day with them. It was a lot of fun. And just got to hang out, and it was like a wild dream come true for me. And to have Elise there was really cool as well. And she started talking some really great stuff, and I said, no, we got to hold it. I'd love to ask you a question. So, Alice, if you could get the mic ready. The mic was stolen. Oh, Dee Dee took the mic.
Dee's gonna win.
Dee Dee again. While we're getting the mic, I'm gonna ask. So, Elise, I want to know specifically about casting, the process of casting both Amanda and Busy. Like, what was it like the first time you met the girls? You've got to have some really fun stories about this.
I do. This is on? Yeah. Okay. So I had a casting director and tape, and she was bringing in every possible, established young actress into the room. And so we're seeing, pretty seasoned kids who had been already on lots of things. And then she started bringing in people who had just, a little less experience. And we basically saw almost 100 different girls. And I wasn't finding that right combination. And I was, brand new. This was like a big break for me to be doing this little film. It was just actually one single film before it became a series. And in came, so there